Hey, what's going on, y'all? You may have noticed that this R. Kelly drama has kind of died in the media. And I believe it's pretty much died out because of one or two reasons. I think that R. Kelly is either going to beat this case or the case is just simply going to be dropped. And I say this because of several reasons. Basically, in my mind, there are 8 reasons on why this case will either be dropped or if it goes to trial, R. Kelly will pretty much beat it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to break this video up into 3 parts. So, this will just be part one. So the first reason I believe he's going to beat this case is because number one, he's already beat this case before, right? So way back when they charged him with, I think, child pornography charges or something related to sexual assault of a minor. I don't have the details in front of me right now, but you can easily just Google it and pull it up. The reason I mention it is because that activates a concept or brings forth a concept known as double jeopardy. And basically, double jeopardy is comes from the Fifth Amendment, and it basically says no person shall be subject uh, for the same offense to be twice put in jeopardy of life or limb, which is actually kind of funny because I didn't know that you could ever lose a limb in the trial. But obviously, that was probably the case. Maybe they were doing some eye for an eye, tooth for a tooth type of business back in the day. Otherwise, why would they put it in there? So they put limb in there because, maybe if you accidentally cause someone to lose a limb, they're going to come back for your limb. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. So, but the point is that double jeopardy is invoked because they've already tried to try him and they failed. Now, whether he was guilty or not, I don't know. Maybe he was, maybe he wasn't. I don't know. A lot of people believe that he was guilty. But the point is that he beat it. So now that creates this concept called double jeopardy, or it invokes double jeopardy. So if you charge him again, none of the charges, I believe, none of the charges can be directly related to the first charge. So that brings us back to, or that brings us into reason number two, which I believe is statute of limitations and ex post factos. So basically, I found an article that talked about some of the reasons R. Kelly would beat his trial, and like I believed in the concept of statute of limitations and ex post factos before I found this article. So this article didn't basically put in my mind the concept of statute of limitation ex post factos. But anyway, basically, the article basically says that in 2015, the state of Illinois passed comprehensive statutes. Uh, there's 3 of them that basically eliminated uh, statutes of limitation when it comes down to certain sexual related crimes. Here's a problem that was passed in 2015, which basically means you can't go back and convict someone for a crime earlier than 2015, right? So you can go back and you can get those people that committed the crime after 2015. So let's say something happens in 2016 and then it isn't discovered until, I don't know, 2050. Well, they can still go back and get you because of this statute. But this statute uh, doesn't allow the prosecutors to go back past the date of 2015. Why? Because of the concept of statute limitations and ex post factos, which are 2 different concepts. The statute of limitations basically means there's a limit of time of which a person can be prosecuted for, or in which you can take this something to court for civil action. And then ex post factos means that you can't make a law for old crime so that you can prosecute someone. For example, let's say a person does something really crazy and then the legislator says that you know what, he got away with this. This was morally irreprehensible is a legal term that I hear a lot. We're going to make a new law so we can go back and get this by. And you can't do that because of the concept called ex post factos. Ex post factos is a constitutional protection. It's in Article 1, Section 9 of the Constitution, and it basically says no bill of attainder or ex post facto law shall be passed. Essentially, this applies to most criminal cases. Basically, it's as I said, you can't make a new law for an old crime. I think it can be applied to some civil situations if that civil action is being brought to punish the person for whatever they've done. So the third reason is that there's no new evidence. All of the evidence that they have, the tapes that Michael Avenatti is alleging is new, is actually old. At least that's what R. Kelly's lawyer is saying. He's saying all the evidence that they have is old evidence. The DNA evidence that they have is old. They've had it all this time. The videotape evidence that they have is old. They've had it all this time. So if this is true, if all the evidence is old, then I would assume that the evidence is either inadequate or insufficient evidence to be used to prosecute R. Kelly. Because why else would you have all this evidence and decide, not to prosecute, and then, 10, 15, 20 years later, I'm not saying that's a time frame, but, for example, 10, 15, 20 years later, you're deciding that I'm going to prosecute R. Kelly based on this old dusty evidence that we've had in the basement. So there would have to be some new evidence to give this old evidence credibility, or there has to be some new evidence that you have, and you're prosecuting them on this old evidence. But there's no reason for you to, take old evidence, present them as new, and pretend that it's new in order to prosecute. So if you didn't prosecute way back when, it's because it's inadequate or insufficient. So I'm just going to end this video right here in the interest of time.